Hello, and welcome to Leading Inspired Learning, a Strive podcast. Okay, welcome to Leading Inspired Learning, a Strive podcast. I am thrilled to be sitting here with Michelle Marks. I'll let you introduce yourself in just a minute, to share a little bit of your journey in this sector and your life and this profession and what you're currently doing, and learn a little more about your role in this ever-changing landscape of early years.
Sure, I look forward to sharing.
Awesome. So you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm a mom. I have two girls. They're awesome. Nora is 11. She's going to be 12 soon. Claire is 8. And I have lovely husband, very supportive husband, Jeremy. I cannot go on to this conversation without mentioning him because we live in a 1,200 square foot bungalow, and to come to your husband and say, hey, I want to run a home daycare. And he's like, yeah, great idea. Why not? We don't have a basement or anything, but you do you, girl. So very supportive husband. And I'm a musician. I play the fiddle. I've been relearning that as an adult. It was something I took on when I was about 14 years old. And in the last 2 or 3 years, I've taken it back up, have a fabulous teacher helping me along with that ride. And I'm a licensed home daycare provider and absolutely loving that experience as well.
Yes. And you're currently in school.
I am also, thank you. I meant to mention that as well. I am also a student on top of everything that I do. I am now with Fanshawe College doing their apprenticeship program to get my early childhood education certificate, which has taken a long time for me to get to here. Yes. And I'm proud to be doing that alongside my family now.
So fun fact, Michelle is one of my students as well. I teach in the CDP program at Fanshawe. Yep. So again, small world. This early years world is a small world. That's for sure.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so tell me about the program. What made you want to enroll in the program?
So to be honest, I've actually wanted to be an early childhood educator and be in this program since I was 17 years old.
Really?
Yes. So this dates back all the way to high school and wanting to be an early childhood educator. I was young. I loved babies. They were so cute.
Oh, they're so cute.
And I wanted to go in that direction. But in my final year of high school, I was getting everything lined up. And I was in the guidance counselor office, and the vice principal comes over to me and my friends, and she's asking, oh, what are you guys going to do? You know, you're in your final year. Where are you going from here? And she asked me, where are you going? What are you going to do? And my response was, oh, I'm going to be an early childhood educator. I'm really excited about this. Yeah. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, aren't you all? And that was her response. She was surprised and kind of taken aback by the fact that here's another girl who wants to take care of babies for a living. And her response was the last thing I needed to hear. I'm one of 4 kids, and I always wanted to be a bit different. And so when you have somebody above you saying, ooh, you know, you're just doing what everybody else wants to do, it really took me aback. So that set me on a completely different path. I was no longer looking to be an early childhood educator. I was looking at, well, what can I do instead?
That's different.
What can I do that's different? So I went off. I took my first year in music and got my certificate there. And then I entered into the 3-year program, a 3-year program at Mohawk College. And I got into that first year, and I was up against the waves. It was not what I wanted. I loved music, but I didn't want to be a teacher. So I stopped going to classes. I got a job, and I just dropped out. It wasn't my path. Yeah. So that set me on a completely different direction of just being a person with a job, paying my bills. And life went on. I met my now husband, Jeremy. We had kids. We bought a house. We did all those things. Yeah. But I really started to show an interest again in ECE.
With your own babies?
With my own babies. And a little bit prior to that as well. It was in the idea of this is what I want to do, but how? How do you become a student when you're working full time? Yeah. My husband was a student at the time. And we have all these obligations. How can you be a full-time student and balance this? Well, years went by and had my babies and had an absolutely wonderful opportunity to open up my own home childcare. So that was my little foot getting back in that door again. And that was exciting. only to learn years later that there was an apprenticeship program that I could work and get my education at the same time. So pivotal point in my life. And here I am started in September, so I'm fresh and I have at least a year and a half to go, but it is worth every step of the way. I'm so proud to be doing what I wanted to do all along.
Yeah. And you can still work, which is a brilliant thing with the apprenticeship, right?
I have to work.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I can't not. So this is wonderful. And I have great teachers. That's
thank you.
Very helpful.
I paid her to say that. No. Yeah. So that moment for you in high school, I feel like we hear that. Sometimes we also hear when folks express an interest in wanting to be an early childhood educator, being like, oh, but you have so much potential. You should be a teacher instead, or you should do something else instead. And people are dissuaded from the profession when they're in high school. I think that what you shared and what you experienced kind of touches on this idea that it's a feminist issue. Our work is a feminist issue, and there are stereotypes that exist.
Yes.
Oh, all you girls want to be, I just want to play with babies all day. Like, what is that saying about how our society views our work with children? And the fact that it changed your mind completely, and you did a 180 and went into a completely different program. So what would you say to high school Michelle?
Oh my,
now?
High school Michelle. Yeah. If I had an opportunity to meet with myself back then, I would have a nice sit down and a long chat, because I look back at that moment as an adult and as an educator, and I want to talk about the connections that we make in our lifetimes. I can't think of anybody who doesn't do what they do because of a connection they made somewhere at some point in time, right? Yeah. I play fiddle. Why do I play fiddle? Because Ashley McIsaac got up on a stage when I was 14 years old and I fell in love. And so I play fiddle. That's what I do. Why did I want to become a childhood educator? Yeah. Because I loved babies and I saw their potential. And as I got older, I really started to understand why it was I was drawn to that. That I didn't want to be like that adult who set me on the wrong path. To really evaluate a moment like that and say, hey, 14-year-old Michelle, this person doesn't know you. Yeah. And they're not clear on what they're talking about in this specific moment. They might be a fantastic vice principal, and maybe I got that person in the wrong moment at the wrong time. But I needed to pursue that path, because look at me here nearly 30 years later and finally doing what it was I was supposed to be doing all along. That this isn't about babysitting. No. This isn't about playing with babies all day. This is about setting children up for their entire future and being the connection that they get to make, and setting them on that path is, who wouldn't want to play a role like that? Yeah. So I would say that to me. Yeah. Definitely say that.
It sounds like your work has almost been kind of to negate what this vice principal had said to you. Like, everything that you've done now and the work that you do now is because, like, unfortunately, you had that experience where someone you looked up to was this, this vice principal of a school made a comment that changed your trajectory, and it sounds like you want to do the exact opposite for children and just encourage them to be them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not only that, being able to reflect on those moments and look back and say, you know what, as negative as that experience was, how far would I have gone on my own at that stage and age in my life? I look back at my life now and I look at the things I'm struggling right now, or I shouldn't say struggling, that's not the right term, but juggling now, right? Yeah. I'm juggling a lot, and being a student and a mom, and but I'm
running a business
a business, but I'm so passionate about childcare that every word on every page matters. Would that have been the same at 17 or 18 years old? So I can now look back at that moment, and even though it redirected me, I'm proud of the fact that I found my way back. And absolutely, I want to be the change in children's lives and be able to set them on the right foot so that they can find them and they can do their thing. And I want to be that big cheerleader in the background saying, go do you. Like my husband saying, start a home daycare in our tiny house. Go
for it.
Yeah, go for it.
And so why home childcare? Why not go and work in a childcare center? You know, you're going to have your RECE soon, so you could school board. You know, there are other avenues in the early years. Why home childcare?
So fantastic question, by the way, because I think that there are so many different directions that childcare can go.
So many.
And home childcare really fit a path that I am currently building. So I still got to be mom because I had two littles. My youngest was just turning 1 when we had this opportunity. So I literally had an option to go back into retail management, which is what I had been doing for in between that gap there.
Right.
Or suddenly I can do a home daycare, which my husband and I had been talking about for quite some time. So it fit the model where we were at in that time, and that was fantastic. I was able to still take care of my baby without trying to find childcare for her. My oldest was going off to kindergarten, so I was able to be there to drop her off and pick her up. So there was a lot of perks that came with being home.
Right.
There were also a lot of struggles. I can always get into that at another time.
Yeah, no,
but
mean, we'll dig in.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to be home. That was the key at that time, and it was very helpful. And I also, I had been in charge for so long. I had been management for so long that it made sense to build my own business. And because I had been managing adults for so long, it made sense to be like, and here's these cute little kids who, it's the same idea, right? You're helping them learn how to do certain things. Just like in management, you're helping your team learn how to function. So it went hand in hand versus going into a center, which is fantastic as well. My oldest went to a center and we loved it and we loved the staff there. But I just saw for me at that time that home daycare was where it was at for me.
Yeah.
And it, after COVID, or a little bit in between COVID somewhere, I went from being private to being licensed. I have this wonderful crew at London Children's Connection who I could not do this without. COVID really changed home daycare and even childcare centers for that matter.
Oh, yeah.
So I had been navigating that by myself for a very long time, and to finally partner with a community and a team that are the most supportive team I could have asked for made it that much more exciting too.
Oh, good. I think that there are a lot of misconceptions around home childcare and a lot of misunderstandings about home childcare. So what do you find to be the biggest thing that you kind of have to be like, actually, no, this is how it is when folks bring it up?
So one of my favorite things, and I can almost hear a bunch of home daycare providers cheering out there right now when I say this, we are not babysitters. We are not babysitters. I remember I was doing before and after care for one child, and I had all the babies with me, and I went to pick up this child from school, and the ECE in the classroom opened up the door, and then she hollered back to the child. She goes, "Oh, your babysitter's here." And I just...
From a fellow ECE?
From a fellow ECE. Oh, my goodness. So, no, we're not babysitters. I remember babysitting. I was 14.
I love babysitting.
Yeah, it was great. We used to watch Power Rangers and eat pizza pops.
Popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic, right? Toboggan down the hill with
all
the kids.
Things.
All the things. It was so good.
Our youth.
And absolutely, no, we're not babysitters. We are educators. We are teaching kids to dress themselves, and we are teaching them how to sleep. We are teaching them how to use their utensils. We are doing all of that by ourselves often because we don't have staff, right? I can't hand a child off and say, "Oh my gosh, so-and-so is biting. I need to shadow this little one. Can you please take so-and-so?" We're doing it all, and we're juggling it all. So that is kudos to all the babysitters out there, because that job needs to be done as well. But we are childcare providers, and we're definitely educators, whether we have our ECE degrees or not. If you're doing this and you've got 5 to 6 kids in your care, you're definitely rocking it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It, I mean, I give you all the kudos in the world because I had the very immense privilege of visiting a couple home childcare providers a couple years ago, just before I had my daughter. And I got to go into their homes and see their programs and see how they're run and see how they, navigate transitions to outdoor time and meal time. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And I've only had experience in childcare centers. I hadn't seen a home childcare in action before. I'd picked up my niece from her home childcare provider, but I hadn't seen the day-to-day in action. And it is very much like you see in a childcare center. The transitions are happening. There's a routine of the day, but it is all you. So you're doing these routines, you're managing all of the expectations of the families, of the children, plus you're also the cook. You're providing lunch. You're also filling out paperwork, all the paperwork.
Yes.
You're also doing all of these things on top of caring for the children directly. It's a hard job.
There's a lot of hats.
A lot.
Yes, very much.
What are the biggest, not struggles, like you said, that's not the right word, but the biggest, how can I use juggling? You used juggling so well before. The biggest things you have to juggle in your day-to-day as a home care provider.
You are in your home all day.
Yeah.
You're in your home all day. And
remember COVID? Wasn't that fun, everyone?
Oh my goodness. We learned so much about COVID, especially how to enjoy TV.
Yes.
So yeah, you are in your home all day and you are with children for a big portion of your day. So,
and you're a mom.
And you're a mom. Yeah, I'm a mom. I've got my girls. Then I'm getting them off to school while bringing them home. So that actually touches on one of the biggest struggles that in the beginning, when my husband and I, when we would talk about me being a home child care provider, we always talked about my girls being older because I looked at it and said, you know what? I want them to have mom before I'm taking care of other children. But then this opportunity came up when Claire was just nearing 1 year old. And it was hard for me to say no to that. So I did actually start much sooner with a home daycare than I had ever planned. Right. And here she is she's 8 years old. She turned 8 in December. She doesn't know any different. She has shared mom
her whole life.
The whole time.
Yeah.
She grew with one of my crews, which was fun to watch as well. And that was our COVID crew. She grew with them. And it was really sweet. So the struggles came from finding out how to be mom, but also be childcare provider as well. You've got your child in the exact same group and you can't favor them over the other children. You need to respect all the boundaries. So that's tough when you've got a young kid. Much easier now. They're my helpers now. It's far different. So that was one of the first struggles. The other struggle being that it is your home. Right. At the end of the day, it is your home. And, it's being able to establish those safe boundaries to let families know that you love their children and you care for their children and we give them 110% all day. And then at the end of the day, it is our home and our private life as well. So I've been really fortunate that I have fantastic families in my care and those boundaries are very well respected. I'm very lucky to have that. But that is a struggle that anybody looking into being a home care provider wants to make sure they're prepared to establish those boundaries for their families. Right. So that's one. And the last one I would add, this is one that's always been hard for me, is when we're sick or when our kids are sick. Yes. We let down so many people. Yeah. And we can't help it. We can't foresee it. No. It happens like a light switch. Yeah. There's no staff to take over. Right. So it can be 7 a.m. and you're expecting families within the next 20 minutes and suddenly your child is very sick. Yeah. It just happened to us last week, unfortunately. Oh, and now you're closing. Yeah. And that's hard because I don't want to let them down. Yeah. So that is a struggle it's a mental struggle that really takes a toll on us. Yeah. So I can see that because you don't have any backup. It's you. It's not like you can call in and be like, hey, I need supply staff for the day. Right. It's that's hard. Yep. And are you able to kind of set your own hours or how do you navigate balancing work and life? Because childcare centers are open from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. sometimes. And that's a whole lot of your day.
to be only you. That's longer than the average shift.
Yeah, that's a really great question as well, because when you're first starting out, you really want to please everybody. So somebody comes to you and they say, I need a care provider from 6:30 until 6 o'clock at night, and you want to build your business. So you're saying yes, 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 yes. Yeah. One of the benefits of being a licensed home childcare provider is I still get to make my own hours as well. So that's lovely that I can build my business and shape it how it fits my family best, and still have the support from the team at London Children's Connection. So as years went on, I shifted my hours to start to fit my girls. It was just a little nudge here, a little change there. And over the years, I've been very lucky to make our schedule work a little bit better for my family. And in addition to that, I actually noticed a shift in the kids as well.
Oh, yeah.
I used to not take very much time off. I would take a week around Christmas. I would take a week in the summer. And right around the time when schools were starting to open back up after COVID, I knew my girls might go back. I had been homeschooling them that duration. Oh yeah, so I homeschooled on top of.
Oh my gosh!
So
I forgot you blacked that out.
that went missing for a bit. So anyway, I ended up changing my hours right before my oldest was going to enter grade 3, and I said to families, I said, you know what, we're going to start to take off March break. And then we kind of added in another week in Christmas. And this is over the stretch of years, right? Yeah. And before I knew it, I was taking off the Christmas break, the March break, and then a couple of weeks in the summer as well. And something amazing happened, which is that I thought I was doing it just for my family. And then I realized how refreshed the children were every time they came back to me. That when they got those breaks, we exploded in learning when we returned. So in the end, it ended up not just being about us, it ended up being about for the children as well. Yeah. So same for the hours in care. I'm really fortunate right now that I'm in school and all the families, somehow I got so lucky that all the families in my care have children in the school across the street.
Oh, great.
And so they're already there dropping off an older sibling, and then they're picking them up. So my schedule is about 8:30 to 4:30.
That's great
right now, and that includes setup and takedown. And I needed that for this year for sure.
Yeah. So especially navigating school on top of everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
I think that's maybe one of the misconceptions is people feel like they do have to be open from 6 to 6 or whatever when they're and they're dissuaded away from a home childcare situation because they feel like they don't have the ability to say no.
Yes.
And that's a skill in and of itself to build and to learn in yourself when and how to set boundaries and do that kind of thing. But I can so relate because I even noticed it with my daughter over the Christmas break when she was home for a couple weeks, that her language exploded over the Christmas break. And she was now stringing together full sentences by the time she went back to care in January. And it was like, oh, again, we just needed a little change of scenery for a little bit, a little change in routine a little bit. And, some one-on-one time with mom, time with her brother, time with family. And it skyrocketed her language. It was amazing to see. So I think that we naturally do want to please everyone. I think that is, if we think about it in a bigger context of, white supremacy culture and all that sort of thing, we're ingrained to be people pleasers. Right. As women, as white women, as Canadians, I think it plays a role in that element of it, but the boundaries that you can set and the ability to be flexible and work with the families who are in your care and your family at the time is such a beautiful thing. And I think that's often overlooked when it comes to home childcare.
It is. And one of the things to explore with the concept of working hours as a childcare provider is it's one thing to say we're open from 6 to 6. We don't necessarily have to have all the children from 6 to 6. True. It's important to look at the families, the child, and the care. And you can actually develop a schedule that is unique to each family. Right. So rather than saying, hey, I'm open from 6 until 6, you say, you're contracted from 7 until 4. And that's because, that's what you needed, right? And that ensures that you don't have a parent who's hopping off to Costco and then
Right.
and you still have their child when you still have things you need to get to at the end of the day as well. You know that child's going to get picked up, and now you have 2 from 4 until 6 instead of 3 to 5 for those hours. So building a schedule based on the personalities of the children and the needs of the family can happen. It doesn't have to be a rigid 6 to 6 job. It can be you have 1 child at 6 and then the rest come in at 8. Yeah. That's lovely because now you've just got a little one who's eating Cheerios while your kids are eating Cheerios, right? You can take a really relaxed version and then build your educational hours around the school day. Instead. So have a little flexibility.
I like that.
Give yourself
it that way.
Right. Give yourself some flex there.
Yeah. And okay, so you also mentioned that you run your business out of your bungalow. When I visited the programs a couple years ago, one was a similar situation. They were a bungalow and the whole space was their home childcare. Like they had a playroom, a main kind of living room, dining room, kitchen was all a bit open concept, and that was their home childcare space. I visited another where they had kept their personal living space and their home childcare space separate.
Right.
They had a bit more square footage than I have in my house. So how do you navigate that in your space?
Another great question. In our space, we're similar to the first situation you shared, which is that we utilize a large portion of our home. You walk in, it's a very open concept. One side is what should be a living room and the other side is kitchen. And then our bedrooms are in the back half of the house. So the right side, when I first started, was our living room. And I brought in kids, and that little back bedroom, 10 by 10, was our play space. Okay. And what I found was that the kids would just go in there, take a toy, and bring it out into the living space anyway, right? So that's how we first started. And when COVID hit, there were so many rules in place, including you had to block off your couch. You weren't allowed to be using soft surfaces because those couldn't be sanitized. So now we're looking at this room with a completely different view. And I'm saying to my husband, well, we're not even supposed to be using the couches. So we take our couches and we move them back into a 9 by 13 room in the back of the house. And now this room has no couches. So that solved that problem. Right. But now we also don't really have a living room either. You can go back in that back room and sit in the couches, but I'm going to admit it was tight and it wasn't the most inviting space. Right. So we've just adapted to that. The couches are actually gone now. They didn't last there very long. We just found it wasn't working. So they just went. And we now have this space that is daycare and our kitchen, which is kitchen. I'd almost argue that it's similar to living in an apartment building, right? You don't have a lot of space. We have a lot of outdoor space, which is lovely. Yeah. But the daycare itself takes up a lot of our home just because of the design of our house. Right. And that worked incredibly well because my children were young as well. So they just had this fantastic space to play. Mom, on the weekends, I could just put my feet up, IKEA chair, throw my feet up, and they would play all day, and it worked really well anyway. So it fit for our family. It worked. Yeah. But I definitely admire those care providers who can turn a whole basement into their space as well.
So where do you sit and watch TV?
So
if the couches are gone, is this getting too personal?
Not at all. Not at all. And I think it's important, right? Yeah. Because it also speaks to the idea that you don't have to have a huge space to do this. You can work with what you've got. So on the weekends, the TV comes out and goes onto one of the shelves, and we bring out the IKEA chairs, and that's a great place to lounge. We have TVs in our bedrooms. So just cozying up on a bed and watching TV works really well. And then on the breaks, I have a folding bed frame that I bring out. So everything, the daycare just gets completely taken down and it goes in the garage because it's also an opportunity to deep clean. Yeah. I bring out the folding bed and we make this fake couch. And that becomes our living room during the breaks. And the kids love it. And it's an extra space for us. And we love that. And then right before the holiday ends, I'm taking it all back down, putting it all back to normal. So again, it's when it's what you know and you work with it. It works for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So what would you say to any person who's exploring or thinking about, has interest in a career in early years? what would you know, your journey's been unique. You're currently in school right now. You've opened a home childcare. What would you say as kind of like a lesson to take away from what your life has taught you in this sector?
I would say anybody who's looking to do this as a career, getting into early childhood education, whether that be in a center or an ECE in a kindergarten class, home childcare, whatever that may be, go for it. Good for you. The world needs good teachers, and these children are our future. So to know that people are passionate about helping these children become the best people they could be, why not be that person? Why not get out there, love them, observe what they're doing, and just let them be? And it is such a fun job. Yeah. One of the things I absolutely adore in my everyday is observation. We get to see fascinating things take place. And I'd love to, can I share an example or two of some of the things? Spoiler alert, you're probably going to see this in a report, but
maybe I've already graded it. You don't know.
You might have already seen it. But one of the things that happened just last week was I was watching a little one, and we had this jar. It's an M&M jar from Costco, if anybody's ever had M&Ms from Costco. So it's filled with loose parts. And this little one, he's 3 years old, and he's trying to get the lid off, which is tough. Like it's a big jar, and they're little. So he's trying to get this lid off. And I have this moment where every inch of me wants to jump in and help him, right? But the educator in me knows that, wait a minute, let's let him figure this out. Let's see where this goes. And it went in a completely different direction than I was expecting. Another friend across the room, lying on the floor, playing with his toys, sees the struggle, stops what he's doing, gets up, walks across the room, looks at him. He says, "Do you want help?" And I'm sitting there, I'm with my coffee. I'm like, yeah. And the little one wanted help. So together, these two boys, one is holding the base, the other is holding the jar, and they are twisting their bodies in opposite directions to pop this lid off. The lid comes off. And the little boy who was originally trying to get it off looks and says, "Oh, thank you." And the other little boy says, "You're welcome." And he runs off and goes back to his activity. And again, yeah, exactly. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh.
Right?
Everything about that interaction was so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of watching them grow to be these human beings. And I've had the opportunity to give them those tools to manage that situation. And did I think in that moment that that little boy was going to have a peer come up and help him? No, I thought he was going to ask me for help. Yeah. I assumed that that's what it was going to be. But in the end, it ended up being that these two collaborated and solved the problem all by themselves. Those moments, if you want to be an early childhood educator, just prepare yourself for that beauty that comes from witnessing human beings developing. It's fantastic.
Oh, I love that. What a great example. Thank you for sharing, Michelle. Check our time here. Oh yeah, we're rolling. This conversation's going well. Okay, I'm trying to think of one. I mean, I really think we maybe just need to end it with that story because it was just so beautiful, and what a way to encapsulate everything. Is there anything you want to add about your journey into becoming a home childcare provider?
I will add one other thing that I think is really important for how I got into what I do today. And that is it's something that I want to share because I feel like adults can look at these situations and it might help some people really connect with children on a different level. When I was in my 20s, I crashed my mountain bike and I ended up with a very serious concussion. Oh, gosh. I don't recall much of it.
Yeah.
And
well, thankfully.
Yeah. And it was a long recovery. It took me a while to get back to being independent. I had split vision, so I couldn't drive. I was stuck at home with my parents, and that's not what most 20-year-olds want to be doing. Yeah. Now, they were great. They were taking wonderful care of me, and I'm very grateful for that. But it altered how I look at children. Because I look back at that time and I'll never forget a specific moment where I was healing. I had split vision and I was trying to pour oatmeal to make myself some breakfast because I didn't want to ask for help. And as I'm pouring oatmeal, my sister's little dog is at my feet, licking my feet. And I can't figure out why. My depth of perception was really off at that time. And so I have to stop what I'm doing and physically look down to figure out why this dog is at my feet. Well, it turned out I was pouring the oats into the invisible bowl because of the split vision. And the dog was just cleaning up the oats that were spilling. And I reflect on that so much, because whenever a child makes a spill, how do we know that they're not doing their best, right? I was doing my best with what I had at that time. And it can be challenging as an adult because we're impatient and we have to get to work. And I remember a little story you told about your daughter spilling some cereal on a different podcast, that we lose our patience because we have a lot going on. Of course we do. But at the end of the day, if we can reflect on those moments and say, wait a minute, this child is learning, right? Maybe their elbow hit it the wrong way. Maybe their spoon hit it the wrong way and things went flying. But to really recognize as an adult and an educator that children do their best almost all the time, then we're much more flexible when those moments happen. Or to come back to those moments later, like you did with your daughter, and say, hey, you know what? Or was it your son? Sorry, actually, it was both of them.
Bowls hit the ground. Yep, it was one of those mornings.
It was one of those mornings where you've got everything going on. So being able to reflect back and share a beautiful moment, say, hey, you know what? I see you. You tried really hard, and I was never really mad at you. I was just frustrated in that moment. So that injury helped me view things very differently. And I'm, as unpleasant as it was, I'm grateful for that experience.
I love your perspective, Michelle, because, you know, it hasn't, even though you knew this is what you wanted to do from such a young age, the road has been rocky, and you've decided to learn from all of those moments instead of letting it get you down or dissuade you or not pursue what you feel like you need to pursue at the time. And I think, like, I've never had a brain injury where I've spilt milk, but I think there are instances in our lives where we are more helpless than normal as adults, and you do feel grateful for care in those moments. I think postpartum, so grateful for my mom and my support systems for caring for me while I'm trying to care for a new baby. I think we can all, if we take the time, can reflect on moments where you have felt cared for as an adult. You've tried your best and maybe have been less independent than you normally are. And if you can put that into context with children, that's such a beautiful thing, because you're right. It's so easy to get swept up in all of the things that need to happen in the moment, or, oh, now I have this big mess to clean up, and feeling those things instead of just so grateful to witness a learning moment, a learning experience, and then grow and build from it. So that's such a beautiful thing to share. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Anytime. It's been such a joy to chat with you. We are going to put a few links in the description of our episode. If you're interested in learning more about being a home care provider, LCC has provided a few links for us to learn more. And I'm sure people can reach out to you or our good friend Julie Keynes to learn a little bit more about that. And, it's not often that we get to sit down and have conversations with educators working directly with children. It's something that I love doing, and hearing your stories of observation, of resilience, of patience is such a wonderful thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much for listening. You can connect with us on Instagram at Leading Inspired Learning Pod, or on our website at striveswo.ca/podcast. I would love to have you tell a friend or colleague about this podcast. Thanks again for listening. Please join us next time.